I've opened up Photoshop and I now want to open my scanned image file. So I'm going to go to File, click on Open. Here's my image. I'm going to open that up. Okay, so this image is great. It's a little too big. So what I want to do is I want to make it smaller with what I'm just going to work with. So I'm going to go to my Tools panel here and click on the Crop button, which is a square button that has dash lines around it. If you can't find your Tools panel, go to Windows, click on Tools, and it should show up. So I'm going to click on my Crop button, and I'm going to crop this, which is about there. And then I'm going to cut and paste it into a new file. So I'm going to go Edit, Cut, or Control X. And then I'm going to go to File, New, or Control N. I don't need to change anything because the computer knows the width and the height of the image that I just cropped. So I just have to click OK. And I'm going to paste it in by going to Edit, Paste, or Control V. And there we go. Now it's in a more manageable size. Okay. So before we get started on anything, I want to discuss 3 awesome shortcuts that I use all the time, super helpful. And it's zooming in, zooming out, and then moving the artboard space. So zooming in, you can zoom in by going to View and clicking on zoom in or zoom out. Or if you see here, the shortcut is Control and the addition sign. On a Mac, it is Command and the addition sign. Zooming out, it's Control and the minus sign, or on a Mac, it is Command and the minus sign. So let's try that. I am going to click Control, addition sign on my keyboard, and I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to do Control minus sign, and I'm going to zoom out. Great. Let me zoom in again. I'm going to zoom in. And the third shortcut I want to discuss is using the spacebar. So if I click on the spacebar on my keyboard, you'll notice that this little icon changes into a hand. So it means it's ready to grab something. It's ready to grab this artboard space. So if I click on my spacebar and then use my mouse to click and drag, I can go to any section I want without having to deal with the scroll bars down here, because it gets really annoying sometimes to use these. So I use the shortcut of using the space bar and clicking with my mouse and going around to wherever I want to go. Okay, so now let's get started. I'm zoomed in into my calligraphy that we scanned, and you'll notice that there's these gray dots along the edges of my word, and I don't like that. That's just what happens when your scanner scans something. It picks up a lot of stuff. And how do we get rid of that? So the first thing we need to do is go to our layers panel. If your layers panel is not open, click on Window, Layers, and while you're at it, also click on Adjustments, because we're going to work with our Adjustments panel as well. So make sure your Layers panel is open, your Adjustments panel is open, and your Tools panel is open, which is over here. Okay? So if you notice over here on my Layer section, I have Layer 1, which is the image that we copy and pasted into this file. So there it is, Layer 1. And background is a white, black, blank background behind it. What we're going to do now is we're going to flatten this layer to fuse with the background layer. And to do so, you're going to right-click, and you're going to merge down. Now all you have is just the background layer, so it's just one layer that we're going to be working with. Okay, now the next thing is to do is in our adjustments panel, go to the levels button, which is the second one from the left on the top, and we're going to click on that. But before we click on that, I want to discuss that there's another way to get to levels, which is image, adjustments, levels. But we don't want that, because what happens is when you use this function over here through image, adjustments, and you use any of these here, it affects your whole image that you're working with, and you can't delete it or get rid of it. It's permanent. But by using your adjustments panel, it creates layers. So if you make a mistake or you want to delete a layer, it's super easy to do. It's not permanent, and that's a great thing about Photoshop. They make sure that you just can't ruin your file if you know what you're doing. So again, really important, make sure you go to the levels section through the adjustments panel. So I'm going to click on levels. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in to my work. Ooh, too much. And this levels tab opened up, and you'll notice there's like a graph section here, and then eyedroppers. There's a black eyedropper, a gray eyedropper, and a white eyedropper. We're going to click on the white eyedropper, and I'm going to click on one of the gray dots, preferably a really dark one, because what's going to happen is when I click on it, all the gray dots disappear, and the eyedropper is now saying that those colors it picks up will all be white. And then I'm going to go to the black eyedropper and just make sure, click on a black spot, and then all those colors that it picked up will be black. Doesn't really change anything in this instance, but I just wanted to go over it. So that's it for levels. Now that we're done with the levels, you'll see in the layer section that it created a levels layer. If I click on this eyeball, you'll notice that if I click on it, it'll show the dots again, but then if I click on it again, they all disappear. So that means the levels is doing its job. And what I want to do is I want to flatten this layer into my background because I really want it and I want it for my final product. So I'm going to merge down. And now what I want to do is I want to clean up all these little black dots that my scan picked up. So I'm going to go click on the eraser button in my tools bar here, or click E, and then your eraser will come up, and I'm going to erase all these little black smudges. A way to increase your brush size is by going up here and clicking and adjusting your size. Or another way of adjusting your brush is by clicking the brackets on your keyboard next to the letter P. So the left bracket makes it smaller, the right bracket makes it larger. I use this a lot. So just cleaning up any things I see. Yep, right here. And I don't really like that edge, so I'm just going to erase that. And then if I made a mistake, actually I want that section back. I'm going to go to Edit and click Step Backwards. So, or the shortcut is Alt-Control-Z, and so it brings it back. And I notice over here that the hairline on my H isn't really connected, and I want to connect it. So I'm going to click on the brush tool here, and size 3 is good. Need it small, and I'm just going to touch it up right there. Okay. Everything else looks okay to me. This little part of the P don't like, so I'm going to erase it. Click on E, get rid of that. Right here, my H, this part isn't as smooth or ovally as I want it to be, but I can change that in Illustrator, and I'll show you how to do that later. Let's zoom in right here. Make this smaller. Kind of that little bump there, don't like. Or here on my A, that part's too much ink got on there, I guess. So I'm gonna erase that. Okay, so that's good. I think I like it. So now I'm just gonna save my file. I'm gonna go to File, Save, and I'm gonna save it as Happy. I'm gonna save it as a Photoshop format. It's perfectly fine. You don't need to save it as a JPEG file or anything like that. I save mine as Photoshop because later on, if I wanted to go back, I can always go back and change it if I want to in Photoshop. So I can click Save. And up next, we're going to go over Illustrator and vectorizing our work in my next post. So see you then.